I stopped ironing my husband's shirts and his manager noticed first. I've ironed Mark's shirts every single morning for 11 years. Not because he can't, because early on I offered once and it just became a thing. 5 shirts a week, Chris collars, the whole deal. He'd walk out the door looking like he had his life together, and honestly that felt like my job. I was proud of it in a small, stupid way. Then back in the spring, I went back to work full time. My mom got sick and the medical stuff wasn't cheap, so I picked up a job doing the books for a dental office. 40 hours a week now, same as him. And nothing at home changed. Not one thing. I still did the shirts, the lunches, the laundry, the dishes, all of it, plus a full work day. I said something about it in April. I was standing at the ironing board at 6 a.m. and I just said, "Hey, could you maybe start doing your own shirts? I'm slammed now too." He didn't even look up from his phone. He said, "You're way better at it than me. I just messed them up." I said, "You'd learn." He goes, "Babe, it takes you like 10 minutes. It's not a big deal." And that was it. Conversation over. 10 minutes, 5 days a week, on top of everything else. And it wasn't a big deal because it wasn't his 10 minutes. So I let it go for a while. I kept ironing, but I started noticing things, like how he'd sit on the couch after dinner while I was still cleaning up. And he'd say, "You want help?" But he'd say it in that way where you know he's hoping you say no. And I always said no, because by the time I explained what needed doing, I could have done it myself. In May, I tried again. I made a list, an actual list of everything I did in a week versus everything he did. I showed it to him at the kitchen table. He looked at it for about 4 seconds and said, "This feels kind of passive-aggressive." I said, "It's not passive, I'm being pretty direct." He said, "I work hard too, you know. I can't just come home and start doing chores." I said, "I work the same hours you do." He said, "It's different." He didn't say how it was different. He just said it was like that settled it and went to watch TV. So one Monday morning in June, I just didn't do it. I got up, made my coffee, and got myself ready for work. Mark came into the kitchen looking for his shirt. He opened the closet and they were all in there. Clean, but wrinkled. Not destroyed. Just not ironed. He goes, "Where's my shirt?" I said, "In the closet." He said, "These are all wrinkled." I said, "Yeah, there's an iron in the laundry room." He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then he said, "I don't have time for this, I have a meeting." And he grabbed one, put it on wrinkled, and left. Slammed the door a little. I didn't say anything. I just went to work. I did the same thing Tuesday and Wednesday. Each morning he'd pull out a wrinkled shirt, sigh loud enough for me to hear, and wear it anyway. He wouldn't touch the iron. It became this standoff neither of us named. He thought I'd cave. I knew I wouldn't. Thursday night he came home different. He sat down at the table and said, "Susan pulled me aside today." Susan's his manager. I said, "Okay." He said, "She asked if everything was all right at home." I said, "Why would she ask that?" And he kind of mumbled it. He said she'd noticed he'd been looking, quote, unkempt all week, that a couple people had said something, that she wanted to make sure he wasn't going through anything, because it wasn't like him. He said it like it was my fault, like I'd embarrassed him. I said, "So the iron's in the laundry room." He got loud then. He said, "Do you get it? This is affecting how I look at work." My boss noticed. "This is a professional thing now." And I looked at him and I said, "You told me it was 10 minutes and not a big deal. It took your manager 1 week to notice. It took you 11 years. He didn't have anything for that. He just sat there." I said, "You want to know the difference between your work and mine? Nobody ever pulled me aside to ask if you were okay. They just assumed you were, because I made sure of it." He's been ironing his own shirts for 3 weeks now. He's not fast at it. This morning he was still at the board at 6:40, and he asked me real quiet if I'd show him how to do the collars. I said sure. I showed him once, then I went and finished my coffee.